Cheeseheads. Get on your feet. It's Curd and Long. Hosted by Sparky, Fifer, and Ryan Horvat.
Welcome in another edition of Curd and Long. It's been a while. Steve Sparky, Fifer with you, Wisconsin Sports Daily, weekday afternoons from 2 until 5 on 1250 a.m. The Fan. You can also stream us on your Odyssey app. He is Ryan Horvat, co-host of BetMGM tonight. Nick Shue and Trista Crick weeknights. Check them out on the BetQL radio network or stream them on your Odyssey app as well. Follow him at Ryan Horvat on Twitter. You can follow me at Sparky Radio. Let's jump in here. News coming out here in the last couple of days. Mark Murphy, who will age himself out next July as president of the Green Bay Packers, will be followed up by Ed Policy as the next president of the Packers, Carmen Policy's son. Carmen Policy, of course, for years ran the San Francisco 49ers for Eddie DeBartolo and was very, very successful. Ed Policy was in the league office years ago. That's where the Packers nabbed him from to put him here. And now he will be the next president. Before we get into Mark Murphy's tenure, Horvat, your thoughts on naming Ed Policy, good, bad, or indifferent?
Kind of just indifferent, to be honest with you. I do think that it's going to be good, for there to be some change. I do think that the thing about Green Bay, or about the Packers, is I trust them, especially on the business side, to always make the right decisions. All they continue to do is build, right? Yep. Remember going to Lambeau as a kid compared to what it is now? Now there's so many different attractions and, everybody wants it's unless you're a bitter Bears fan or NFC North fan, it's on everybody's bucket list to go to Lambeau Field. So they do a really good job. Every year they field a competitive team. So I usually trust them to make the right decision. So we'll see how it goes.
I think a couple of things. One, Policy was the one that's kind of spearheaded this whole Titletown district to begin with. So he's been in large part kind of running this thing. The Green Bay Packers just bought some more land a couple months ago around that area around Lambeau Field. So obviously they've got something else coming or something else they envision coming going forward here. And we have to understand something, I think, as a Packers fan base. You're in Green Bay. To try and compete against Jerry Jones and that behemoth of a stadium in Dallas and all the money he brings in, to try and do it in Green Bay without a dome. So you are pretty much eliminated from concerts and everything else in the wintertime and all that extra revenue coming in. The Green Bay Packers had to figure out a way to be able to make more money in a less conventional way, I guess you could say, to deepen their war chest and so forth kind of going forward. This is what they came up with. And it's brilliant. And in fact, when the Bucs decided they were going to build a new stadium, Peter Fagan was talking with the Packers as far as what they were doing with Titletown and then what they were going to try and do with the Deer District in some way, shape, or form. Obviously, they don't have nearly as much freedom to do like Green Bay does. But you think of all the houses that were bought up, all the houses that were torn down, the stores and the gas stations and everything else. And now, like you said, it is obviously an attraction. So my question to you is, how would you describe Mark Murphy's time as president of the Packers, Ryan Horvat?
Yeah, okay, so I've always been a little bit of a Mark Murphy hater, as everybody knows. I was a big Aaron Rodgers guy, so I always hated the management. So, I would rip into Mark Murphy and Brian Gutekunst.
But remember, Murphy was there when it went from Brett to Rodgers. So, everybody remembers Rodgers to love, but he was also the one there at the forefront of kind of patrolling that thing from Brett to Aaron, too. He went through 2 quarterback controversies.
Right. So he was president and CEO since, 2008. So that would be 12, I believe, playoff appearances, a Super Bowl victory. Could have had a couple more Super Bowls. Some fluky stuff happened. The game against Tampa, I think they would have won if David Bakhtiari didn't get hurt that season. Rodgers played good in that game, man. He really did. Yeah, I know they couldn't get the job done in the red zone, but they really, it's because EQ dropped a ball, and we were all there. I don't need to recap that painful memory. Seattle. So, like you said, man, this is Green Bay, Wisconsin, and you're competing against the Dallas Cowboys and Jerry Jones and the teams that he could field out there. Teams like the Rams that are going to buy Super Bowl rings. that was the only thing that really pissed me off always about the anybody involved in the front office. It could be Russ Ball. I'd throw anybody under the bus because I hated seeing. I was like, why can't that be Green Bay? Like when the Rams, and it was just Odell Beckham Jr. decided that he wanted to go to play there, but like they went all in for that Super Bowl. And I just wanted to see Green Bay do that for Rodgers. Maybe another wide receiver other than Devontae Adams in his time there. So I don't know. That's or towards the last 4 years, I should say. So, but it's like when you look at it at the end of the day, I think you would have to consider it a great success, wouldn't you? Whatever your personal opinion of Mark Murphy is, all those playoff appearances, a Super Bowl, title town. Damn, man, look at the pro team shop. It's 2 floors now. They're pumping money into that place. And like you said, though, times are changing, and now you gotta get somebody younger in there, maybe a little bit more creative that understands, especially because he's been working in fan engagement and things like that. The entertainment could be a little bit better. Like you said, you're at a disadvantage because you can't have concerts in the wintertime. But at the end of the day, I think Mark Murphy's time was a success. Would you agree?
I think if you look at it, you can look at it in 2 different ways, right? If we look at it from the business side of things, as we talked about, Titletown District, A+. Buying up housing, building housing, whether it be apartments or whatever the case may be, bringing in bigger businesses and breweries, that sledding hill that he gets made fun of with his meme of him going down in a slide or whatever, right? Yeah. But that's brilliant because that brings kids and families in the wintertime during the week when there is nothing going on. There are no games going on. And you're filling that bad boy up and having people in that area and taking advantage of that. Then if you look inside the stadium and what he's done there, he's done nothing but just redo everything. That huge addition of all those seats added on the opposite side of the stadium from where it was empty when he came in with that big scoreboard. What would that be? The south side of the stadium, I guess. Where he adds on that huge wing of seats way up in the air, and they quickly fill all of that. We're talking 80,000 people at capacity. I was watching a game the other day back with Leroy Butler's Packers, and it was just the seating bowl. That's all it was. I was watching and laughing like, oh my God, like it looks nothing like it does now. And part of it was Bob Harlan's renovation and everything else that he did and adding the luxury suites on the north side and doing all of that. So Harlan gets some credit for that, but Murphy's kind of taking it to the next level, redoing the Packer Hall of Fame. Now, what's the latest thing they did? They put underground parking in for the players, so they don't have to park in the parking lot and sludge through the snow or whatever else. All of that's been done. All the player areas have been redone. They've redone all of the practice fields and everything that goes along with that. Not only have they spent money in bringing people in, as far as from a revenue standpoint, but they've also enhanced the player experience, Ryan, too. And that is the business side of things. And that is Mark Murphy, the former player, taking care of the current players, giving them the things that they need. Not saying Harlan didn't do that, but Murphy has kind of taken it to the next level, Ryan. And we haven't got to the field stuff necessarily. I'll do that next. But that, I think, is a big thing, too, where guys go around the league and they get to Green Bay and they're like, damn. They really take care of their guys here.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. The thing I'll say, like Mark Murphy down to, and I'll always give Ted credit, and a lot of this does fall. Some of it falls that in playoff losses. Because here's the thing at the end of the day. You should have more Super Bowl rings because you have 2 Hall of Fame quarterbacks. You could say you played in the same era as Bill Belichick and the Patriots. Here's my issue. You should have at least seen them a couple times then and had an epic Super Bowl, Brady against Rodgers. So I kind of have to fault everybody for not having more of a clue that, and again, like some of this is Favre had some stinkers, Rodgers has some stinkers. I love both of those guys on the field, but like, let's be honest, like they were also awesome in some playoff losses. At the end of the day, it isn't even like, oh, Rodgers needed another wide receiver. You can't have 2 decades, 3 decades, whatever it is, of quarterback play in one top 10 defense, 2 top 10 defense, whatever Favre got, but Rodgers had 1 and they won a Super Bowl. They needed to pump more money into the defensive side of the ball or into better, the scouting team needed to be better. Whoever was evaluating players coming out of college, man. Because, you can't win a Super Bowl whether you have Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers, or Jesus Christ himself or whoever you believe in, when you're trotting out like small forwards from Miami, Ohio, and Ladarius Gunter and Quentin Rollins and Demarius Randall. You need shutdown corners. Like the Chiefs, Mahomes is great, Andy Reid's great, but wouldn't you say they have the best defense in the league right now? I think they do. We'll see. They just lost Snead, but you need physical corners and you need a pass rush. Green Bay never has. Every playoff loss, man, the quarterback's sitting in the pocket. Colin Kaepernick's running all over the field. Like,
that's
Clay
right.
Matthews, he never had any pass rushers, and the only guy you paid was Nick Perry, and he sucked. Sorry, go on.
But Horvat, you're right on everything that you said, but you missed one key component that your defense also needs: a capable coordinator. They've got one of the best coordinators in football in Spagnuolo over there in Kansas City, who was a failed NFL head coach. He's one of the best D coordinators in the league. You could not say that they've had one of the best D coordinators in the league in the last 15 years in Green Bay.
No, that's another critique because another critique, I guess, more just the defensive coordinator angle would be, I think they've just been too loyal. Like McCarthy needed to go 2 years earlier, whether you like him or not, and he could have been a good coach elsewhere. He's a good coach in Dallas, but you had to break up him and Rodgers, and you weren't breaking up the quarterback, right? Capers needed to go like 5 years earlier. Patton needed to never be hired, let's be honest. So on and so on and so on. Joe Barry, I don't care if that's Matt LaFleur's the best man in his wedding. Never, ever, 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 ever should he have been a defensive coordinator. Linebacker coach? Sure. You can't hire guys just because they work with frickin' Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan. Actually, correct that, though. Those two guys, I would argue you can. Like Raheem and all the, you know what I mean? Their coaching tree is pretty solid. That is LaFleur. But I don't know. That's the other thing. Like Green Bay is just a little bit too loyal to their guys. Like you got to pull the plug early. Because at the end of the day, selling crap is awesome. But that's the problem with Murphy. Like he was more into the business side, I think, than the Super Bowl side.
No, I disagree. Because Murphy is the one that got here, Ryan, and said, you know what? I know when Bob Harlan took over, that Bob Harlan said, hey, man, y'all take care of the football side. I'm not a football guy. I'm a baseball guy because he was with the Cardinals, the St. Louis Cardinals. I tend to try and forget about that because I love Bob. So I try and move past that part of it because I hate the Cardinals. But having said that, he came in and said, Ron, do what you got to do. And Ron Wolf said, hey, Bob, just so you know, I'm going to trade a number one pick for the third string quarterback in Atlanta whose coach does not like him at all in Jerry Glanville. But I think he's going to be good. So we're going to give him a first round pick. Could you imagine the social media era how that would have played out in Green Bay had Goody traded a one for a third string quarterback that hadn't gotten on the field on a team that wasn't all that good to begin with? Oh my God. But again, Harlan, swallowed hard and said, okay, man, I told you I was going to get in your way. I'm not going to get in your way. Go ahead. So that's how it was forever. Then Wolf goes to leave and Wolf says, I think Mike Sherman. Okay, fine. So he lets Sherman do it. That was a mistake. Harlan admitted that later. So then in comes Ted Thompson to run it, and Bob Harlan once again says what? Go stay out of it. Do what you want to do, Ted. Not going to interfere. Okay. Mark Murphy comes in. Now, to me, you spoke about loyalty. He let Ted stay way longer than he should have. He had health issues or whatever else he had going on there. That he should have pulled the plug on that sooner than he did. But he let him stay.
That's tough to
whatever.
do.
Ted's good soldier, whatever.
That's
but now Ted's out, Ryan. And Mark Murphy, who you say is all about the business side, Mark Murphy, football player. I know what I'm doing too. I know how to run a football organization. I played the game. I know the game. I want in. So what does Murphy say? No more of this football side stuff. I'm going to run the show. You all report to me from now on. LaFleur, you report to me. Goody, you report to me. Ross Ball, you report to me. Then take it a step farther. Murphy in the interview process was the one running the interviews for the head coach. Goody's sitting over there in the corner. Oh, okay. Can I ask a question? 1 second. Hold on. I'll get to you, bro. Anyways, blah, blah, blah. That was Murphy. That was all Murphy, right? He's the one that brought LaFleur in. Goody just shook his head. Okay. But that, to me, that changed something that Green Bay had been steadfast in not wanting to change. Murphy changed it. So does he get credit for that? Because I think you would say, Ryan, that it's worked, right? This whole process has worked with him being the grand poobah in this whole thing, and then these other dudes kind of all reporting to him at the end of the day, it's worked. I had my reservations, but it's worked.
Here's my thing, right? I couldn't care less about the suits. Can't stand any of them because at the end of the day, 2 Super Bowl rings. But I'll take the 2 Super Bowl rings. I said I graded his time as a success. That's as nice as I'll be. But I also had to throw out a couple other points. And so, yeah, I mean, he obviously, everybody wants to win at the end of the day. I'm saying too much loyalty, and they needed to, make some changes. They needed to go all in for a couple of those. Although you could also say there was the year that they did spend money on the defensive side of the ball. And the defense was okay, but it underperformed when we needed them to be good. And that was against the 49ers, who, with a third-string running back, ran all over us. But they spent money on Za'Darius and Preston and Adrian Amos, and they hit on Jair. So, that's the thing. At the end of the day, man, they put that team should have won a Super Bowl. They should have. They should have beat Tampa. That Tampa team shouldn't have beat Green Bay.
I agree.
They should have not freaking – you don't come into Lambeau Field ever and beat Green Bay. So, San Francisco should have never beat Green Bay.
Well, the Seattle game, too.
That was the game. Rodgers should have put more points on the board in that game. That was – I know it was cold out, but, man, the special teams let them down at the end of the day. But, yeah, I don't know. Mark Murphy's time is success. Is that how we're grading it? Where else were you going to go?
Yeah, I'm definitely, it's sparkling good. And I've had my issues with Murphy too, like that whole, him running everything. But here's my follow-up question. Let me ask you this. Yeah. So Ed Policy's now in charge. He's not a former NFL player, nothing of the sort. So what do you do if you're at Policy? Do you still have all these guys report to you like Murphy was doing? Or do you go, hey, man, I'm a money guy. I'm not a football guy. Like, Goody, you're back in control again. Everybody report to Goody. I'm not going to be in charge of all of this. Or do you say, I work for Mark, I'm going to do the same thing? How do you handle this if you're at Policy? I kind of want him to just say, Goody, it's your deal. Go do your thing. I'll be over here trying to buy some more land and build some more stuff. I'm not going to act like I know what anything is going on over there on the football side.
I think that's the way that it goes down, right? I think Goot gets more power in this whole thing. I don't think Ed Policy is going to be out there. You know what I mean? Hey, I want Quinn Ewers or anything like that. You know what I'm saying? I think that's exactly what he's going to be doing. Buying more land, trying to figure out what else you could put out there to make it more of an attraction. It's crap, man. Now when you go to the Super Bowl, you should see this stuff that they have, these fan zone things. And I know Green Bay kind of has it, but nothing like they have there. You could be kicking field goals and just keep pumping money into it. Keep getting people, I don't want a roof. I'll tell you that at all. I don't know about you, your thoughts on that. I don't want them to mess with Lambeau Field, right?
No,
that's an advantage. It should
Absolutely
be an advantage in the playoffs. We never fricking win any of those games, but it should be an advantage. And I would never want to change the historic, most beautiful place on the planet. So I don't know. I think that's the way it goes down though. Or if anything, maybe you bring in, somebody else even. I don't know how this works, to be honest with you, because like you said, Mark Murphy was a former player and Ed's not. And so I don't want him having anything to do with the football decisions. I know I always haven't been the biggest Goot fan, but he's been pretty good in these last couple drafts and, through free agency. So I think that he's got to take more control here and run all of that. Right?
This is the thing. What or how will Policy be graded? So, because Jordan Love wasn't under Policy's watch, they drafted Jordan Love under Mark Murphy. So if they go win 2 or 3 Super Bowls with Jordan Love, does that go to Policy or does that go to Mark Murphy when we start talking about legacies?
That's a really good question. Murphy, I guess.
Well, who gets it? Is it Policy or is it Murphy? Does Murphy get credit because he drafted Jordan Love? He was under his watch. They drafted Love, but they won the Super Bowls while Policy was the president. So where does that fall? Who gets that credit?
So here's how I got to ask. Is it this year like with Mark Murphy's team? Or are you talking like in the future in like 3-4 years?
Yeah, in like 3 or 4 years. Let's say they win 2 or 3 Super Bowls, and we're a couple of years removed from Murphy being out of the loop and Policy's been president.
Gotcha. My bad. You're breaking up a little bit there. I would go with probably Mark Murphy, to be honest with you, because that was one of the least popular decisions in team history, right? Like, I crushed it because you had Aaron Rodgers, and it isn't even that you had Aaron Rodgers, but you had Aaron Rodgers under contract for 3 more years. You couldn't get away from it, and you had just won 13 games, right? Now, we got to give Policy a lot of credit, though, also, if it's like, okay, this team can't get over the hump, and then he goes all in with Goot one offseason, and they bring in, 2 stud pass rushers, right? And frickin', the next Tyreek Hill, or AJ Brown, something like that. If they make a big move like that, well, then you kind of got to say it's Ed, because Murphy would never make those moves. They would try, they would be, they would be in the mix, but they were never able to actually pull off the move for Randy Moss, for Odell Beckham Jr. Like, the list goes on. Fitzgerald. Every year we would hear some rumors, and we never got any of those guys. They wouldn't trade a freaking 3rd-round pick for Tony Gonzalez, man. Tony Gonzalez went on to have a Pro Bowl season where he had, over 80 receptions. That's always what Rodgers or Favre,
right?
Like Rodgers especially needed, was a tight end ever since the Jermichael Finley injury. So that's the way that Ed gets more of the credit. But Murphy will always have to have credit if they win a Super Bowl with Jordan Love, because that wasn't a decision that, especially where you took Jordan Love, right? Like, moving up for Jordan Love, not moving up for a wide receiver in one of the more deep wide receiver classes. Patrick Queen was there. So, yeah, I think you'd have to go Murphy.
All right, very good. Let's take a quick time out and come back. We'll go to our second topic. ESPN just did a thing where they stacked up rosters across the NFL and kind of graded them out and said, okay, this is the best roster in the NFL. It doesn't mean they're going to win the most games, but the best roster in the NFL. This is second best, third best, fourth best. They did this whole thing with the National Football League. We will analyze and see where they have the Packers. We'll see if Ryan Horvat agrees. That's next. Curd and Long. Download wherever you download your favorite podcast at. You can also stream us on the Odyssey app as well, whether it be Ryan's show, BetMGM tonight, or my show, weekday afternoons from 2 to 5, Wisconsin Sports Daily. You can listen to us there. And also check us on the Odyssey Sports YouTube page, because we will stream these live as we're doing right now here on Wednesday afternoon. Back after this, Curd and Long. Hey, it's Sparky Fifer, 1250 AM The Fan, host of Wisconsin Sports Daily, weekday afternoons from 2 to 5. He is Ryan Horvat, weeknights, BetMGM tonight, part of the BetQL radio network. If you don't have a BetQL radio station near you, you can always stream that on the Odyssey app, just like you can Wisconsin Sports Daily. Follow Ryan on Twitter at Ryan Horvat. Follow me at Sparky Radio. And now we have to talk about the Packers roster. How would you stack up the Packers roster versus others in the NFL? And this was done by ESPN just a few days ago. Number 1, San Francisco. I don't have a problem with that. Number 2, Kansas City, the Chiefs at number 2. So far, we good? We're okay? Niners, Chiefs, 1-2, Ryan?
Yeah, for now.
Okay. Number 3, the Baltimore Ravens. Number 4, the New York Jets at 4. I mean, I know the defense is stacked. I know you got the quarterback back. I understand that. You've made some improvements to the offensive line. Tyron Smith at left tackle was a nice little add. Morgan Moses at right tackle. Tippmann is your center. So they made some adjustments to the offensive line. The Lions are 5. The 6th team is the Dallas Cowboys, who the Packers crushed. The 7th team is the Bengals. Still waiting for the Packers. The Texans are number 8. Number 9, the Buffalo Bills. Still waiting. The Philadelphia Eagles are 10. Still no Green Bay Packers. Still waiting on the Packers. Number 11, the Miami Dolphins. Still no Green Bay Packers. Still waiting. Number 12, the Cleveland Browns are on this list. Still no Green Bay Packers as we continue to go through. And finally, at 13, we get to the Green Bay Packers at 13, Ryan Horvat. To me, that seems awfully late for me. I would think they would at least have a top 10 roster as we head into this 2024 season based on how good they were last year in the second half and in the playoffs.
All right, so I jotted these down. So the Ravens, I love the Ravens, man. And like last year, if you added these dudes, I would say yes, but they lost a lot. So, and I mean, I know Lamar and Derrick Henry, if they stay healthy, are going to be just fantasy gods. But I think that might be a little bit too high, especially after everything that the Texans did. The Texans are way too low. And sure, like maybe CJ Stroud has year 2 regression. I don't think so. I've always been a huge fan. I think they get better. But dude, they have Hunter on one end and they have Will Anderson on one. They don't really have a weakness. Maybe the secondary, but like they also have a lockdown corner. So I think they're a little bit too low. The Bills, laugh out loud. I mean, the Bills don't have a number 1 wide receiver. The defensive side of the ball, Von Miller had as many sacks as you and I combined last year, and he played most of the year. He had 0 sacks. You lost your best cover corner in Trey White. Micah Hyde's gone. Poyer's gone. You know, you don't know your head coach is any good. So I'm going to go no on them. The Eagles, maybe just because I really like their draft. Their issue last year was their secondary was not good, like 25th in the league. Then they get my guy Coop. They probably get the best corner in the league to pair with them. And they bring back Gardner Johnson. So I think that makes sense. The Jets, I mean, that's what I'm telling you, man. That defense on paper is the best in the league. And you have Rodgers back. And now you have a true number 2 to pair. And we also forget Garrett Wilson's a stud, man. He's been getting thrown the ball from USFL quarterbacks. Like, let's see him with Rodgers out there. Or if Rodgers isn't healthy, like even if you're not a Rodgers guy, like you said, Tyrod Taylor's an upgrade. Teron Smith I like, but he's got to stay healthy. And this year is about Breece Hall. That's why I'm so into the Jets. 1 year removed from that injury, they wouldn't give him the ball last year. I mean, his line sucked, but first carry, he popped for like 60 and a touchdown. Bengals on paper, yeah, but like I don't love their secondary. The Browns on paper, again, like if Nick Chubb comes back and he's Nick Chubb, I do think people are sleeping on them a little bit. Their defense was really good last year at home, but on the road, they were like 15th. It was weird. They go from like number 1 at home to like 16th on the road. Those splits are kind of crazy. I'm going to say Packers probably a little bit too low here. I think that they have a better roster overall than the Bills. The Bills have Josh Allen, though, right? I think they have a better roster than the Dolphins. I don't like the Dolphins' defense. But yeah, man, I think actually this makes some sense. And I'm not saying Green Bay can't win the Super Bowl, but what I'm saying is there's a lot of parity in the league. Like, what if Rodgers stays healthy and plays like an MVP and that defense lives up to the hype? Jets could win the Super Bowl. Lions, yeah. Like, that offense, the thing is Jared Goff going to have another year like he did? Probably, because Ben Johnson's back. If Ben Johnson would have took a head coaching gig, I wouldn't give them as much respect. The Bengals, if Joe Burrow's healthy, they could win a Super Bowl. They went to a Super Bowl a couple years ago. The Texans, like I said, are stacked. Bills are, no, I'll take Green Bay's roster. Eagles, I think that's a toss-up. Luckily, we'll find out week 1 in Brazil. Dolphins, give me Green Bay's roster. I don't trust Tua, but you do have Tyreek Hill. And then the Browns, let's see if like they stay healthy and Deshaun Watson goes back to being Deshaun Watson, but I'd take Green Bay. So Packers should be, I think, top 10. I think that's fair, right?
Yeah, I think that's definitely fair. And then they have like the biggest strength, biggest weakness, X factor for 2024, non-starters to know in this ESPN piece. Biggest strength they have is edge rusher for the Green Bay Packers with Smith, Gary, Van Ness, and Ingabare. Biggest weakness for the Packers they have is off-ball linebacker because they lost Devondre Campbell, and now you're talking about Isaiah McDuffie, Eric Wilson, Edgerrin Cooper, Tyron Hopper. So that's what they have as biggest weakness. X factor they have as a wide receiving core. And it says odds are one of them will ascend into a wide receiver 1 caliber player, but we haven't seen it yet and don't know which one it will be. Assuming that happens for someone, Jordan Love and the Packers offense should stay hot into 24. Non-starter to know, they say Corey Ballantyne has a better charting numbers last year than his robbing partner, Carrington Valentine. He allowed just 6.7 yards per target in coverage, despite having an average depth of target at 15 yards. What say you on that ESPN description?
I kind of got to see that one to believe it. No, I mean, I know the numbers last year, but let's see how that all goes down. I don't really trust either of them, Spark, to be honest with you. I need a bigger sample size. Those guys I need to see them out there in preseason and with these joint practices. I need the Andy Herman videos until I can make my, I trust Jair in that secondary and McKinney. I've seen play, you know what I mean? But other than that, all of them could regress. All of them could become Pro Bowlers. I have no clue. I would not go into a season with those guys. Trust in those guys. What's up with Stokes, by the way? I've been on vacation. Any good news or bad news? Nothing?
No, apparently he's fine. He's ready to go, and he's healthy and feeling as good as he did since his rookie year. So, it looks like he's going to start next to Jair and then Valentine and Valentine.
Well, if you got a clue and you watch this team, that's the biggest X factor. If he could be, a good corner, a top 20 corner, top 25 corner in this league, this team can win the Super Bowl. So I think he's your biggest X factor, not the wide receiver room. What I love about the wide receiver room and what LaFleur probably loves about the wide receiver room and what Green Bay's always loved about the wide receiver room, even though it's pissed off at times, is if you don't have an Odell Beckham Jr. and A.J. Brown, you don't have a pissy diva wide receiver, right? You have guys like Jordy Nelson. Greg Jennings got mad at the end there just because he wanted to get paid, but I thought that was actually pretty fair that he wanted his money. I thought Green Bay was actually lowballing him. They should have paid Greg Jennings. I don't care what was going on. But they do a good job drafting at that position. And I think every week it could be somebody different, and it could be Dobbs. Christian Watson could stay healthy. He could be, a 3 touchdown every once in a while in a game kind of guy, because he runs one route, right? Wicks is awesome, I think. But that's the thing. Even if one of those guys does regress, there's 8 of them. You got Bo Melton. That's my mom's favorite player is Bo Melton. He's made some big grabs. And you have the tight ends. So I don't really worry about the skill position players at all. Here's my biggest worry about the skill position players. I worry that they made a mistake with Josh Jacobs and should have brought back Aaron Jones.
I don't worry about that as much. And I understand why you worry about it. I think Aaron Jones is a more talented running back than Josh Jacobs is as well. But what makes me feel good about this situation is they got that next guy. Marshawn Lloyd's that next guy. Marshawn Lloyd's that next Aaron Jones type running back, I think, that kind of plays off of Josh Jacobs, who's more of that physical bruising type running back. And he can make people miss, but he's more willing to run over you maybe than Aaron Jones was.
Okay, so that's what I'm saying, though. So if you were bringing back AJ, who I'm always tough on, but man, he ran hard the second half of the season, and he's good in pass pro. So I have no problem with him being running back 2, 6 to 8 carries per game. He needs to show me, if he doesn't bring it in camp and he doesn't prove to be a goal line back, a short yardage guy, and he runs like he did the first half of last season, you cut his ass and you find that guy. Because there's a billion running backs out there, man. James Robinson rushed for 1,000 yards his rookie year. We haven't heard from him since out of Illinois State. But if you were going to draft a guy like Lloyd, I wish you wouldn't have spent money at that position and you would have maybe brought in a vet wide receiver, even a Boyd, or just, I know they say pass rushers is strength, but I can never have too many pass rushers. Another corner. They did spend money though, but yeah, we'll see. I don't want to be a Josh Jacobs hater and then he goes out there and leads the league in rushing, which he just did a couple of years ago. Last year, the offensive line was the issue for the Raiders. Everybody that knows him loves him. So I'm sure, if everybody in the league vouches for the dude, he's probably a great locker room guy. It just sucks losing a locker room guy like Aaron Jones. And it sucks losing him to the Vikings because there's going to be one game where they beat us this year when they shouldn't this year with that team. And it's because he's going to go off for 250 total yards.
No, can't have it. Absolutely cannot have it. Absolutely not. I will not allow it. I will go up there and stop it myself. Ryan Horvat, follow him on Twitter. Ryan Horvat, follow me at Sparky Radio. Check him out weeknights, BetMGM tonight, BetQL Radio Network, streaming on your Odyssey app if you're not near a BetQL radio station in your market. Check me out weekday afternoons in Milwaukee, Wisconsin Sports Daily. Talk Packers, Brewers, Bucks, Badgers, Marquette, Admirals, Panthers, you name it. We talk about it. And you can also stream us there on your Odyssey app as well, AUDACY. If you want to see the video portion of this and see our mugs on video, you can do that too on your Odyssey Sports YouTube page. Thanks for tuning in to another edition of Curd and Law. Enjoy the rest of your